Hey, Coach. Congrats on the big win last weekend.
Thanks. We're just trying to keep up with your team and keep winning some games.
Yeah. First off, let's dive right in. So let's recap last week's game against Grinnell. I'm sure that felt really good for you and your guys to have that big bounce back win after the loss the week before. Can you sort of highlight the game for me a little bit? Because you and your guys had 351 rushing yards, which is very tough to do. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it was good to bounce back after the Ripping game to do that. We were pretty focused in practice, and we I think we walked into the game knowing we had the ability to do certain things, and then we went on and did that. And most of our starters didn't play the second half. It was one of those games where, unfortunately for Grinnell, they had some injuries that really negated their ability to be impactful on offense. And so we were able to jump out to a pretty good lead, and our offensive line really had a great day. And both Armani Brown and Damon Bonds had big days. Armani did on very few carries, and Damon kind of did on more carries, but they both were 100-plus yard rushers, and then we got some young guys in there to rush as well. And second drive of the game, Trey has a big quarterback keep on his own read and takes it 60 yards for a touchdown. So that was kind of the explosive play piece that started to pop out. And as the game kind of wore on, it was just a matter of do no harm, don't risk injuries to guys, and make sure they're ready for the final stretch of the last 3 games. So it was a good day.
Yeah. Last weekend, your defense pitched its second shutout on the season, but to hold a team to only 63 yards of offense is almost unheard of. Obviously, the entire defense played well, but can you talk just a little bit about senior Alex Bendler, who had 3 tackles for a loss on the day, and now he's tied for 9th in program history with 29.5 tackles for a loss throughout his career.
It's funny, he did that on 15 plays. So he only played 15 total plays on the day. And Alex is a guy who, coming out of high school in Langley, Virginia, we were really excited about. And he's proven to be even better than we probably expected. He's explosive. He works hard. He pays attention to the little nuances. And I think that when, I had the privilege of coaching him his first couple of years as a freshman, sophomore in the defensive line room, and he was a sponge, just soaking up a lot of stuff that he'd never heard of. And now he's been able to take that, build on the additional lessons from Coach Wright, and just really have a lot of success. And I think that, one of the things that's understated about him is we probably limit his reps more than he would want us to, just to keep him fresh for the whole season. And he's really intentional about taking care of his body to make sure he can. And so from us, he's a joy to coach. He's extremely successful, obviously. And, he might be 9th now, but I don't think that's where he finishes with the next couple of games. And, the other part is that's 9th in program history, despite having a year cut really short his sophomore year of COVID. So I think that's a really great testament to all the effort he has put in, and I'm looking forward to seeing where he finishes it off.
Yeah. Going into Monmouth this weekend, how would you expect your entire defense to step up against the likes of Monmouth's offense, who's led by quarterback Carter Boyer and running back Devin Lawrence, because they're an offense that's averaging almost 420 yards a game with 44 points a game?
Yeah, they're explosive. They have talented players, and you talk about their quarterback and their running back, but then you look at their wide receivers, and they've got probably from a collection across the board let's take Lake Forest out of the mix. I can't talk about my guys, but collectively as an offense, they have the most experienced and most talented skill group in the conference right now. They've got older guys playing. They got a couple of fifth-year seniors at wide receiver and a running back, and I think they have a 2-headed monster at quarterback. So Carter Boyer is kind of their passing quarterback, and then they've got Riley Federer, who can pass but also runs really well. And I think that those two guys, provide a real challenge for our defense. There's a discipline level that we're going to have to execute at that's at probably a higher level than we've had to at any point this year, because they are the first team, in my opinion, who is equally talented running and passing the football that we faced. And I think that that's one of the things, a couple of times we've been able to focus on, take the run away like we did last week, or take the pass away, in other weeks. And I think that this week is really the first 2-headed monster we're seeing that way. So Coach Butts and his staff have done a really nice job defensively getting a game plan ready, and our players understand it. And so now we've got a couple more days to get ready before the game to execute it. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah. Let's talk about the matchup of your offense, who just ran the ball for 351 yards against a defense that only gives up an average of 75 rushing yards. What are the challenges that your offensive line and running backs will face going into this weekend?
Yeah, big challenge. So they're really stout up front. They've got an All-American defensive end back in Corbin Personette, who is a tremendously explosive player, and he's really good. And he's surrounded by a lot of other really talented guys who have had a lot of game experience, a lot of playing experience. Their defensive line is big, it's strong. Their defensive tackles move better than most defensive tackles do. And then their other defensive end, number 74, is really good. I thought he was one of the most electric young players the last couple of years, where I thought that seeing him for the first time on the field last year in the fall, he's long, he's aggressive, he runs the football, and so they've got that. And their team for a number of years has been really guided by their safeties. And once again, this year you're seeing that where the safeties are great two-way players in the run game and the pass game. They make checks and adjustments that a lot of other teams can't make. They have great understanding. Their head coach is also their defensive coordinator, and so you can tell that he has his stamp and has improved that area. So it's going to be a challenge for us. Our offensive line has had a lot of moving parts. We haven't had the same offensive line starting unit all year this year. We haven't started the same 5 guys in any back-to-back games, and it's probably looking like this week might not be the same. So we're going to keep plugging along. But I think the one thing our guys know is that if they stay on blocks, our running backs are good enough to make really big plays. And we just have to stay on those blocks, keep the gap sound, and then do that. And we've got to sprinkle in the passing game more this week than we did last year against Monmouth. Like, that's going to be a big goal for us. Is, we really, I don't want to say abandoned the pass, but about halfway through the game, we just kept handing the ball off. And we played a little bit of field position instead of scoring mentality. And I don't think we can do that this year because I think their offense is so much more improved. We're going to have to score more points this year to make it happen.
Coach, your senior class has been on an incredible run here for the Foresters. And obviously, it's a huge conference matchup this weekend in the race for the title, but it's also both Senior Day and Parents' Day. So how, as the head coach, can you sort of keep all of their emotions in check in the sense that they don't get too high, that your players aren't executing their job effectively?
Yeah, it's a big challenge. It's really not even a challenge for me as the head coach as much as it is for the position coaches to really have a beat on it. We've proven that if we go too high and too low, we don't play as well. We're pretty good at that, that baseline level and just staying even keel. So I'm hoping that we can do that. I think that for a lot of our guys that are seniors right now, some of them have already made the decision they're coming back next year, and so there's not a finality to it. I also think the other part is we have more games. It's not the last game of the actual season, and I think that sometimes when your senior day is the last game of the year, that's where those emotional pieces really get a little too high because they also know it's their last game. I think for our guys, knowing that this isn't their last game, but it's an important game, I think that will help keep a perspective in the game that's a little bit, hopefully, more balanced and positive for them as the game starts.
Absolutely. Well, that's all I had for you today, Coach. So thanks so much for sitting down and chatting with me, and I look forward to talking with you next week after you guys get the victory.
Thanks. Looking forward to it.
Go Foresters!